Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Back to more of your phone calls in a minute. Joe Biden coming to town today, but you have to buy a $100 ticket to know where it is, $1,000 to get your picture with Smokin' Joe, Sleepy Joe, and then $2,800, I guess, to be a sponsor. Joining us now to talk a little bit about touchy-feely Biden on the carpet, Everett Bartlett, president of the Coalition to End Domestic Violence. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing?
Not bad, sir. You take a look at the former vice president in the Me Too era. How can he be the front runner considering, so many people have issues with how he treats women?
Well, I guess it proves that not everybody is totally crazy about Senators Kamala Harris or Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. I guess that proves there is at least a small dose of sanity left in the Democratic Party.
You would think. It's funny, though. How does Joe Biden get away with, the sniffing, the thising, the touching, the being creepy Joe as opposed to sleepy Joe?
Well, I guess it all goes back to the narrative. It's no secret that the left is very good at creating narratives. The narrative doesn't, of course, apply to everybody in every circumstance. So if they choose to give a free pass to a certain beloved political figure, they do it, and they get away with it. So, but it is the narrative that, and part of that narrative is that we live in a oppressive patriarchal culture, and that, on and on. The narrative explains it all.
Well, let's take a look at your group, the Coalition to End Domestic Violence. Are we getting any better in solving this issue? Obviously, Everett, we talk about it a lot more. We give it more attention than we did in previous years, but are we solving this problem?
Well, the answer is yes. There has been a rather sharp decline in domestic violence rates over the last 10, 20, even 30 years. But there's two very interesting wrinkles to that. Number one is that nobody can give the credit to the Violence Against Women Act. This is the federal law that Mr. Biden himself was the architect and champion of back in 1994. We cannot credit that federal law. So that's one part of the news. The other very interesting piece is nowadays, and this is from the Centers for Disease Control, men are more likely to be victims of domestic violence than women. So, so a lot has changed in the last 10, 20 years.
How does that work? Because we have the old stereotypes. Of course, we're making men more passive these days, and we've talked about it before with other experts, Everett, but here on KIDO Talk Radio, how can men be victims of domestic violence when physically they have a more physical, dominant stature over women, for a lack of a better, more cohesive way to ask you that question?
Well, in many, many ways, we could be talking about, let's start with sort of what sometimes people call a harmless slap. Well, stereotypically, it's women who slap men, not the other way around, and that's sort of culturally sanctioned as, that's okay. But when you get even to the more severe forms of partner violence, women can use knives, they can use guns, they can use clubs, they can hire a hitman. There have been multiple instances just in the last several months of homicides committed by women against their current or their former husbands.
Okay, Everett, the $20,000 question, or maybe with the stock market going down, the $10,000 question.
Okay.
How do we prevent domestic violence? Is it see something, say something? Are there victims that continue to rationalize unacceptable behavior?
Well, this is another very interesting piece of the Violence Against Women Act, which I'll add is up for reauthorization right now as we speak. So So I've been involved in this reforming this law for now 15 years. I know a little bit about it. So what are the causes of domestic violence? Well, there's three. First of all, it's alcohol abuse. Secondly, it's marital strife or marital dissolution. And third is people who were abused as children. When they grow up, if they don't get counseling, they tend to abuse as adults. So, but isn't it rather ironic? There's not a single word in the Violence Against Women Act that talks about alcohol abuse, couples counseling, or mental health issues. That concept just does not exist under the Violence Against Women Act.
Everett, if people want more information, what can they do?
Well, we do have a terrific website. I'll give you the URL. It's www.end2dv.org, and I'll say it again, end2 as in T-O, dv.org.
Everett, thank you. We'll have you back. We appreciate you joining us today, and keep up the good work, sir.
My pleasure. Take care.
Let's get to your phone calls. Barb in Sunny Slope. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Barb.
Good morning. First, just doubling up on that guy that just spoke on domestic violence. I know that my son, who is a big 6-foot man, was abused by his 5'3", very small wife. She could smack him around or hit him with things, but if he ever hit back, he would have been the one arrested.
Well, that's the issue. When you're slapping someone or antagonizing someone, is that provoking them to react? It's kind of like in sports. When you react, you get caught for it. Not that it means right, but you're saying your son 6'4", 6'5", his wife 5'3", and she would bully him?
Oh, she would bully him tremendously. Now, eventually, he left with the kids and got full custody, which is unusual for a man. But he was the one being abused, and he never laid a hand on her. Never, ever did. Wow. It's horrendous. It does happen. I've met other men abused. I really have. But on the gun thing, there's two things that I have to say on that. Well,
we're blaming everybody. We're blaming everybody but the criminals.
I noticed that, and I have a friend who is who moved here from the Ukraine, and you don't hear very much in the way of gun violence in Ukraine, and yet they have a lot of guns. By which I mean, she said that when our children in school are studying art and music and pretty stuff, and wasting their time on Common Core math probably, in her schools, in her country, the students, as a regular gym class type of thing, had to study guns. I mean, they had to be able to take them apart and put them together, and they had to be able to shoot. These are children at a certain level in order to pass the class, everybody. So first off, there's obviously a lot of people knowledgeable about guns. There are a lot of guns in the country because everybody is expected to be able to use one, and I don't hear of any gun violence. I guess the guns are better trained than our guns. So I don't think it's the guns. And on the racism comment that's going on, I had a granddaughter yesterday tell me of a reverse racism thing that she dealt with. Now, she ended up on the good end of it, but it is wrong even though she ended up on the good end of it. She went for medical care and filled out the forms, and they told her how much it would cost. And they said, it will cost you this much money, which is less money than normal, because you are Hispanic. If you didn't put down that you were Hispanic, we would have charged you much more. Now this is an income-based place. So it was based on her income and based on the fact that she's Hispanic. So had she put down that she was white and had the same income, she would have been charged significantly more.
Well, and that's what we call racism today. Barb, thank you for the call. Bob in Caldwell, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Hello, Bob.
Kevin Miller, thanks a lot for all you do. I was in a meeting until a couple of minutes ago, so I couldn't call at 6 o'clock when I wanted to. And one of your thoughtful callers and you were having a discussion about the wisdom of maybe the president's commingling the issue of immigration reform along with these mass shootings, that maybe it was hard to make a connection. And I'm beyond baffled about that. If anybody watched Hannity last night for a few minutes and saw the stats that he put up, which were all factual, relative to the homicides, the opiate, cocaine deaths, drunk driving deaths, et cetera, that were specifically caused by persons in this country that were illegally here, it begs the question, if 29 deaths, 9 in Dayton and 20 in El Paso, can bring a nation to its knees, why can't 4,000 homicides in 1 year bring a nation to its knees? Why can't 300, 400, 500 murders in Chicago bring a nation to its knees? So this is all pretty much political crap that doesn't have any real genuine interest from the left that's taken issue with every utterance of this president. It wouldn't matter what happened, what he said, what he did. It would be just impeach and get rid of and move on with the socialist state issue. And I just wish that more people would just stop for a minute and consider that these things are so intertwined, you cannot separate the two. It's impossible to separate the two. Their cause and effect is identical.
Bob, we appreciate you coming back after your meeting to give us your thoughts on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Our friend Terry joins us now with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm with you, brother. How are you?
Oh, sneaking by. I just can't understand. We had 4,000 people killed in this country, and Feinstein wouldn't meet with them. They're not bleeding hearts or making any statements about that because of the immigration. 10,000 rapes, 30,000 violent crimes, and nothing said about it. And I just wonder, and I'm not trying to be cold about it, you mentioned, and so did other people, that 8 or 9 of the people were Mexican nationals. I just wondered why they're here, getting ready to go to school.
Well, they were there buying at the Walmart, and they do it all the time. And you got Mexico, actually. You're going to love this one. Never mind all the Americans that have been kidnapped and beheaded in Mexico. The Mexico government is threatening legal action against America over the El Paso shootings, say that we have not protected their country's citizens while in America. And I'm thinking about this. Well, what about all the people that go to Cancun and Cozumel that don't come back because the narco-terrorists kill them?
That's right. That was somebody else mentioned that beside you earlier this morning, and it's just tragic. And it is an invasion we're getting from Latin American countries, and not having the respect for the country that they come into, and by being racist about it, it's just. I think they need to get community people and cities together between Hispanics, Americans, and talk these things out, and with blacks in the other parts of the city to bring this down, because there's something wrong, like you said, culturally. We grew up with guns. When I was in high school, they had it in shotguns, rifles in the back of their trucks, and racks and stuff, and people were never killed, and never. So there's a cultural divide. There's something wrong, like you said, with the attitude and the thinking of the people right now that has to be addressed. It isn't going to be through the guns. It's got to be through their mind the psychology of these people between the whites and the Americans and the Hispanics and blacks. They got to be able to reach them psychologically and change this culture of hate. And this is such a tragedy to blame the president. I mean, that is absolutely sick. And I don't see anything in his speeches about being a white supremacist whatsoever.
Well, they blame everybody but the president. Terry, you're in our prayers. God bless, and we got to run, but thank you, sir.
Okay, you take care. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Patriot Ray joins us now. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Patriot Ray.
Good morning, Kevin. It is a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day. Always great to have you on, brother.
Well, once in a while, I've got to say my piece. The thing that really bothers me now is whenever a person in charge of something, especially in a government situation, they want to disarm the people because they don't want to be challenged at any time when they start doing the things that they are starting to do now. These insane ideas that guns are the problem when it's actually the people, and we all know that. They even know that, but their narrative is just to make everything evil so they can accept for themselves. And they are the evil ones. We've got to start pointing that out. We've got Pelosi and Schumer. We've got Cortez. We've got all these other people who are spewing against the people, against us, against the American public. They are not supporting the American public. They're supporting illegals. They're supporting the idea that we give everything to everybody. When you do that, when you give it away, and all of a sudden there's nothing left, and it's gone. And we will be like Venezuela or some of these other countries that are gone under. We do not stand up against the evil people who are trying to become president and keep fighting against a president who is trying to do the best he can with what he's been given. Because honestly, even the Republicans do not support him the way they should. They should get behind him on everything. When Obama was president, the Democrats were behind him 100%, and very few of the Republicans standing against that man. And he was destroying our country by running around and apologizing for a country that has done more for other countries than any other country ever has without taking from them. In fact, we've always given to them. So wake up, people, and start talking the truth and get rid of these idiots who are out there trying to destroy our country. God bless America. God bless Kevin Miller and this show, which gives us a forum to be able to speak our mind. So thank you very much, and God bless you all.
God bless you, Patriot Ray. Take care.
Have a great day.
You too. More of your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get back to more of your phone calls. By the way, before we do that, the liberal indoctrination continues. Thankfully, we're blessed to be your antidote right here on KIDO Talk Radio.
Another Oklahoma City bombing, or something like that. I mean, we're going to have the equivalent of a racist, right-wing, white nationalist 9/11 here. I think, and I make that prediction. I don't think I'm going out on a limb here, and yet I have no confidence.
There are a lot of things he can do,
but he won't. And so you have to ask the question, Joe. And I'll ask you, isn't it okay to deduce that at this point, this is what he wants? He is inciting hatred, inciting violence, inciting racism. If he doesn't unequivocally call it off and say this is wrong, and we stand together against this, and we are doing this, this, and this to help fight hate crime. I mean, this is a president who seems to want these things.
There we have it. MSNBC accusing the president of wanting the violence, of inciting this. Your reaction next. First, traffic and weather together. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller. Quickly, we'll get in pro-life, then we'll have to have Terry hold over the news. But first, pro-life. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning.
Yeah, these commentators from the left that are accusing the president of doing this. This is really pretty sick, and we are in a civil war. just of words right now, and they're the ones that are inciting the violence. I don't know what we need to do about it, but we need to say that, and that's why I'm saying this right now.
We've been sharing that, and as we've said before, whether it's, at a local level, which is what we're judged on, there is only one show that calls them out.
Yep.
There is only one place where you can say, look, these lefties are evil without being attacked.
Yep, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Now, the violence really that goes on every day is there's thousands of babies that are murdered every day in the womb, and that group, they champion that. There's some of those people that say, I wish I'd had an abortion. That's a good thing. And some of those women, that's how sick they are.
I don't know about that, man. When we were at Stanton Healthcare, that was not what I heard.
I know, and I hope somebody's reported on that. I was there. And Father Pavone gave one of the best speeches I've ever heard him give.
I love Father Frank. He does a good
he's
job.
Great.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were there, but I was there.
Well, I went to we had you on the air, and my apologies, I didn't get to you. It was, Ray sent me the stuff, and my computer wasn't working. So otherwise, we would have had you on.
Oh, well, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to report on that, I can call back some other time. But no, and there was no media there, and there was a lot of people there, some important people.
Well, the media won't cover that, but they'll cover Planned Parenthood, but they won't cover the real news and the real people, and that's where we come in. It's all fake, and it's all an agenda to destroy America.
Yep. Now, Father Pavone said that we have to abolish abortion because it's murder, and we can't have any midway regulation of murder. You have to abolish it, and I've never heard him talk like that before, but that is so good.
Father Frank, Priest for Life, Pro-Life, thank you for the call. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. You're home for Fox News on the radio. Joining us now, Tanya J. Powers, to talk about a program not only in Idaho, but across the country, the National Night Out. It is tonight. Good morning.
Good morning.
So here we go. A simple, dumb, yet hopefully leading, maybe provocative Kevin Miller question. For those of us, particularly me, that don't know what the National Night Out is tonight, what is it and why is it important?
Well, this has been going on for a few decades, and this is where you have the law enforcement community and the local communities getting together for different efforts to kind of just come together, get to know your neighbors, that kind of thing. They have festivals and block parties and cookouts and, all kinds of community events with law enforcement where the, neighborhood people get together. They have safety demonstrations. There are, exhibits and, emergency personnel visits. Like they'll, come out and they may do, like a child safety seat, seminar or, some other sort of, crime fighting thing or information like that. But it's basically just to kind of get law enforcement and the community sort of interacting with each other on a positive basis.
And that is so important now more than ever, considering the climate that we're living in.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a map on the website. If you go to natw.org, you can take a look at the different areas. There are some 16,000 communities that take part in this nationwide. In Idaho, there's 20 cities involved. Boise is one of those, so you could even see some local gatherings around there where you are.
Well, that's good to know that Idaho, you have 20 cities. And, as we've talked about before, we talk about national programs, but locally, that's where the difference is made, that one-on-one connection.
Yeah, and that's kind of what this is sort of to foster more of that.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Tanya J. Powers, Fox News Radio. We appreciate everybody. Let's get back to other people. Terry from State College, Pennsylvania, with a prediction of the end of the fiscal world as we know it. Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, it's so sad. Pro-Life said it when he said Civil War. There's one blessing I had in life in school. It was the fact that we grew up 40 miles from Gettysburg. So I guess we were probably kind of privy to hearing a lot of the stories that weren't put into the different history books and weren't published, because we have a lot of the local history, so to speak. And Kevin, pro-life is so right. We are definitely at, based upon history, the early stages of the Civil War in this country.
Well, Terry, you're a smart man, and we would never disagree with pro-life as he makes his numerous media appearances throughout the morning and throughout the Treasure Valley, throughout the state of Idaho. But at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, we've heard that for years. George Bush wasn't going to give up the White House. Obama wasn't going to give up the White House. There's going to be a racial civil war, whether you lived in Pennsylvania or lived in the American South. Everybody talked about it. I really can't see that happening, considering our military and everything else. And you have people on the left saying there's going to be a civil war because of the white nationalism. We have the state of Idaho being falsely labeled as a racist state because of what happened with the Aryan nations before the internet. Aren't we just getting all hyped up here? But where is the conclusive proof that there is a civil war coming?
Well, let's look at Antifa. Okay, we now have violence on the streets just simply by standing there, beating people within an inch of their life, and local bureaucracy turns a blind eye to it. Come on, we've never had that in this country. Even back in the 60s and 70s, you and I remember, we had the occasional somebody would firebomb a car, but nobody got hurt. We only ever had one or two people murdered in the northeastern states out of racial dissension, and that was usually in a bar after they had 20 drinks each. It wasn't nothing like this, not by crowds, not in groups. I mean, this is just kind of like,
on the other hand, you had the civil rights movement where you had people murdered all the time, white and black people.
Well, and that's where it was. You know, and what did we have? That was racial. That was pretty much racial. Now it goes way beyond racial. Now it's racial. It's political. Kevin, we can dissect this and pull this apart, and we'll find out that there's so many varying reasons why people are hating each other right now. It's well beyond, you know, the few lines that people took during the Civil War, and that it was either yes or no on race. Pretty much it. And remember, when you talk civil rights, who was at the forefront of leading the charge in all of this violence? Oh, gee, that's right. It was the Clintons. And who else? Oh, yeah, the Bidens. Oh, yeah, the liberals again. And we know what their history has been. We cannot get drawn into this. We cannot.
I agree with you, Terry. Thank you for the call and listening to KIDO Talk Radio. So the president will visit Dayton, Ohio. He will visit El Paso, Texas. But some people, as we talked about earlier, they're not down with the president coming to see them.
El Paso's Mayor DeMargo says he will receive President Trump Wednesday out of obligation as mayor. But some in El Paso say they do not want the president to come here. Viola told me while shopping at the mall next to Walmart,
I blame him a lot for this.
She thinks the language the president's used toward migrants played a role in this shooting. Police released a list of names of the 22 killed and say the shooter is talking, that he drove at least 10 hours here from just outside of Dallas, got lost in El Paso, and ended up at a Walmart because he said he was hungry. In El Paso, Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Again, trying to make sense of the nonsense the police have the killer, the culprit in hand. Let's not blame rhetoric. Let's not blame the politicians. Let's blame the people that actually did it. Tea Party Bob joins us now, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning for your daily time slot.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. Thanks for another great show this morning. I think we have to kind of look at where this is all coming from and going to. We hear all this talk about left-leaning news media, about white nationalism, when the real problem in our country is the white leftist media idiots who are spewing hatred throughout the country over the airwaves day after day. Now, if it weren't for programs like yours, they would be winning the war of words. So what we need is more talk shows to tell us the truth about what's happening in the country. You know, the time has come where the media rhetoric has gotten so bad, it's time to turn them off and tune them out. You know, I've personally taken the bull by the horns, canceled my DirecTV contract after 23 years. And to be honest, I haven't missed watching their programming. And I believe I'm doing my part to stop a giant corporation like AT&T from passing along misinformation through their left-leaning media subsidiaries. You know, instead of listening to all this rhetoric time after time, I found that reading select information on the net is a much better way to be informed on what's happening in our country and the world, because the opportunity there is to be selective. Now, I firmly believe the media has played a very important role in the hate mongering that has gone on for the past 2 years since President Trump has been elected, and have been a major contributor to the cause of the mass shootings that have taken place in the past 2 years. We talk about mental illness and how it has played a part in these shootings. What we don't seem to talk about is the fact that stations like CNN and CNBC have upped their game against the president in 2019, going into the 2020 election, and focused on racism, nationalism, and hatred in a concerted effort to get rid of the president and make it look like he's the problem. You know, does anyone...
Right, and we see that all the time, and we've shared those clips with Jake Tapper in his insensitive leading questions throughout the morning.
But, Kevin, does anybody really think for a minute that this left-leaning media rhetoric has not contributed to the violence that has taken place?
Look, you've got Mika Brzezinski saying Trump wants white nationalist mass murders to happen. You have the leftist in Dayton, Ohio, going back and forth. Big fan of Elizabeth Warren that doesn't get reported. But isn't this time for a moment of leadership where people say, I'm going to stand down. You've got President Obama now, former President Obama weighing in, President Trump reacting. Why don't we all just take a pill and focus in on the victims, as we talked about yesterday?
Well, I mean, does anybody really believe these purveyors of misinformation have not had an effect on those that are on the brink of mental instability and doing something as irrational and horrible as a mass shooting? Do we really think they have not played a part in this? Do you think they have?
I think they're irresponsible, and they have an agenda. Tea Party Bob, Gem State Patriot, God bless. Thank you for the call. More of your thoughts next. People are wondering are saying, why doesn't Walmart stop selling weapons? We'll give you their response. Also, you have one media outlet saying Walmart is a big seller of assault-style weapons. What is an assault-style weapon? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And don't forget Dave Ramsey today. And more of your phone calls in a minute. First, joined by Jeff the Suit, who has been, I don't want to say harassing me.
I wouldn't say that. That wouldn't be accurate.
I don't want to say badgering me.
Wouldn't say that either. Nope.
I wouldn't say giving me his opinions unsolicited.
Well, I don't know that I have to ask or that have to be asked, right?
But I thought, why not have him share some of his brilliance with all of us here? We're one big God-fearing conservative community.
Do you wish to be dazzled this early in the morning, Kevin Miller? Okay.
I've been dazzled by the folks.
Got it. Actually, as have I.
See if you can keep up with the folks.
I wouldn't even ever try.
But it's not a competition, as I tell you many times.
You sure do, yes.
So we take a look at this national tragedy in El Paso and Dayton.
Yeah.
You have an opportunity. You are on some of these other stations in this building.
Yeah.
You are a barometer of people. Your thoughts?
Wow, that's so loaded. Well, I don't know. Okay, go. I think the thing that I've noticed and that you typically see in the aftermath of this is that everybody hurts in a different way. And I think there's a helplessness to this situation. And on the other stations that you're talking to, primarily the music formats, a lot of times they're designed to be an escape from what's going on. Whereas, KIDO Talk Radio, we say, hear about it and talk about it here, right? And so there's a deeper dive by nature of this station and by nature of who makes up the KIDO listening family. And so on the other stations, typically it's a quick reaction of this is heartbreaking once again to be in this situation. And what I shared on my shows was that I hate to admit this. It's even not, I don't know if embarrassing is the word or shameful or just hurts to admit it, but it's become routine enough now that my gut reaction when it came out was, okay, we got to get the news out to people. I wonder who's writing the story so that we can make sure that's covered. And it's moved from the emotion and being leveled when you hear about another event that it takes you a day to even process that could be reality, to now, okay, we know what to do in this routine. And part of that is the tactical reality of the work that we do. But I think a lot of us have been affected by that, where you see it and you go, okay, I don't know that I have the bandwidth to internalize this as deeply, but it's another moment that just knocks you down a little bit, yet we know how to move forward now. We're used to it. And that is heartbreaking. That's what hit me.
Indeed. Are you staying for a minute or are you leaving?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
All right. Tom in Boise, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. You had a guy comment earlier said that Walmart sells assault-style weapons, which I guess it's style over substance. But that's like saying if a guy's a car dealer and then gets hit in a hit and run, it's partially his fault. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. Am I missing something or what?
No, that was a media report that I was quoting, saying that Walmart is a big seller of a...
The media, no
right.
sense. Now I understand.
Yeah, Tom, I wasn't saying that or anybody else, but that's the spin they're trying to do to shame Walmart into not selling weapons of protection.
Yeah, it's like these red flag laws. The thing that gets me, they've been screaming about we need background checks. They've had background checks for 20 years. Literally. Look up background checks. You have a large and impressive staff of people to support you in your efforts to bring us all the news. Background checks been
you are correct.
Years.
You are correct, and the idea of this, that, and the other, it's just more of the same. Tom, anything else?
The red flag laws they're talking about. Who determines that? Who determines somebody's sanity quotient?
The state.
Okay. If we're going to have a sanity quotient law, may I suggest that before somebody gets a driver's license, they have to pass one of those too? Because I've seen people on the road I don't think would pass the test.
Well, and quite frankly, they need to speak the English language. We'll go back to Jeff the Suit, who joins us now. You had a rebuttal.
I'm in on that. Well, I don't know if it's a rebuttal, but I'm in on the sanity.
Shocking that you would disagree with a great conservative like Tom.
No, you know what? Here's the complexity of the issue, though, because I think it's fair. When you say, like, if Walmart's going to be held responsible for what weapon they sold, do you liken that to a car dealer selling a car and then being held responsible? And our gut reaction is always, no way, right? That's crazy. Well, what about a bartender who is responsible to not overserve a customer who might have already pounded outside the bar? They can be held liable for how much they oversold or overpoured someone, regardless of if they started the evening or could track it or not. So it's not one of those black and whites exactly. It's kind of mired in some gray there, I think, at least to say that we do have those situations in society where some of those lines are blurred a bit more.
Back to your phone calls. Our great friend Brian in Nampa joins us on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Brian.
Hey, Kevin, answer to your assault gun. It's a little toy gun that shoots salt at insects and kills them really well. It literally is a true gun. They call it a salt gun, and they shoot flies with it. It's all over the internet. I'm serious. So there's a good funny for you. Trump's white nationalist. Good gosh, these people are idiots. They don't know nothing about guns, and they don't know nothing about white nationalists. I should know. I grew up across the river from one. And let me explain this to you real simply. If you grow up across the Snake River from a white nationalist, you want an assault weapon. I know he had like 20 or 30 part German Shepherd, part wolf dogs, and they used to come running, tearing to my dad's cattle. And you know how we took care of those dogs? Semi-automatic rifles. And I've also worked in a prison, and I've seen white nationalists that actually do bad stuff. Guess what else I saw in there? I saw Hispanic gangs that did bad stuff. I saw black gangs that did bad stuff. I saw socialists that were environmentalists that did horrible things in the name of the environment. We're listening to idiots that have no professional experience dealing with these people. Why don't you come and talk to people like me that have actually dealt with these people and know how to deal with these people and have had experience dealing with them, instead of getting on the news and flapping your jaws because you know how to write an article? Lead from the front or shut up. That's what I got, Kevin.
God bless, Brian. Thank you for the call.
You bet.
Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, getting ready for Glenn Beck coming up next. Jeff the Suit joining us. The idea that we're blaming everyone except the actual killers. What do you make of that?
Convenient and stupid. Yeah.
Now, you're a big fan of civility.
Am I?
Unlike myself, you're a big fan of civility and really behaving like an adult.
I try.
Many of our private counsel sessions, you've told me you have to behave a certain way. Is that correct?
I guess. I've had a lot of therapy over the last couple of years. So
I appreciate your therapy, and I kind of get a little of that on the side.
Yeah.
However, why aren't the politicians, the media people, acting like adults here instead of exploiting this story for their own game one way or the other?
I just think that's the feeding frenzy of all sides, and especially, blow up the story, make it bigger. I actually genuinely, I don't think you were digging for this at all, nor did you know I was going to go there, but I appreciate the way that you've handled talking about this, where you can be very extreme, you can blow it up, and you can try and use only emotional triggers to talk about something this serious. And instead, it's been cool to see that this was just an open dialogue, place to talk, let out some fear, frustration, sadness, hope, even different ideas. But I think it's easy to create that frenzy, try and play on fear. And boy, you watch the political machine just kick into action, and everyone has a moment where they can do a fundraising letter off this. So I'd like to steer clear of that.
What do you make of the people of El Paso, or at least the congresswoman, saying the president's not welcome?
I don't think anything that further divides is ever beneficial in these situations.
Jeff the Suit, special guest appearance. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
You're always welcome.
First time, long time.
Don't forget, Sean Hannity will bring you home on the right side this afternoon. Ray Amaya, great job. God bless everyone. Stay here. Fox News next.